Hello, I'm Maria. Welcome to my channel, One of Nine. I'm not every mother's story, and that's why I'm really excited about this feature, Real Life Mums, because we're not on our own. And mum, by mum, I want to see how you're doing it and living this Catholic life.
Toy with the
I
idea.
think you mean a visual one. Oh yeah, the 6:30s.
Yeah. But we did toy with the idea of the midnight one. It's like, oh, we
Same.
could get the kids up, and then times like, we'll be tired. Like, I'm sure the kids will be fine. You know, you'll get them up, and I'll go back to bed, fine. But then us in the morning, it's like, I've slept about 2 hours, and they're definitely going to wake up at 6 because you know it's Christmas. So
Yeah, 6 will be a lie, not Christmas Day.
exactly. Yes, very true. Although there's a very strict rule in our house that you're not allowed to leave your room until 6:45.
Are you allowed or not?
We need to hear more about your order, your family order, because
This is Jude Steady.
What it's like to be immensely choleric as a mum.
and how you have such happy, lovely children as a result.
I don't know if it's a result of or despite it. If you're going to go for the genuine British experience, you obviously need cups of tea. Moving to the UK, I didn't understand tea. Because people, you know, the world knows that you guys have a thing. Tea, you know, we know, but we don't know. We think we know, but we don't.
Until
when I moved into a house share. So I had like 3 other housemates, they were all English. And I had this thing where they would say, oh, would you like a cup of tea? I'm about to make one. I was like, ooh, isn't it lovely and sociable? Because in France, if you say like, do you want a cup of tea? It means, shall we sit down and have a chat and have a cup of tea?
Santa!
That is not what you mean in the UK. In the UK, it's more like, you know, okay, so I see that you haven't got a cup of tea in your hand, so shall I remedy that problem for you? And then, you know, go off and do my thing. And so often I would like come, like my friend, my housemate would go make a cup of tea, and then put it on the counter, and then I'd, you know, turn my back, and then I get back, and they've gone. They don't like me anymore. What's going on? It took me ages to understand. It's not a social,
necessarily.
No, it's not a social event. It's about like getting in your you know essential needs. Tea is right there.
And what about the taste of tea? Different from France?
Yeah, definitely. We don't use the same tea at all. Like the French tea is a lot lighter. We don't typically put milk in. I mean, some people do, but we don't typically put milk in our tea. So it's a lot lighter. It tends to be very fruity, lots of different tastes and things like that. Whereas here you've got like strong tea.
English breakfast tea.
Breakfast tea, very black, very dark. Must have milk, otherwise it's disgusting. Where do you go if you need to make a lot of noise? Yeah, I thought so too. Yeah. It says there. If you're gonna go crazy, you go outside.
Okay, let's find it. On the rules? No.
No, these are privileges or consequences.
Oh.
So that's the middle bit is for me. So that I'm just like, if you,
Oh, I see. Yeah.
you know, but the round bits are for the kids.
Make a lot of noise. Go outside in the cold.
No,
Siberia.
actually, that's not far off. You know that horrible room I was telling you about. You know, the one that's
You refer to as Siberia.
It's called Siberia because it's got a window, walls that are about this thick, and you know, no radiators. So it's Siberia, basically.
So something that I'm finding really is helping now is having learned about the temperaments. I knew nothing about it. So I want to say I really had no idea about what temperaments were until I started looking into it, and we laugh at home. It's so funny. It's really helped us to think about how we react to different things, have compassion for each other in our marriage, with the children, in my teaching. Definitely something I recommend looking into. It's fascinating. There's 4 classic temperaments, which are sanguine, choleric, melancholic, and phlegmatic. So the temperaments are not something to box yourself in at and say, oh, I just can't get anything done, I'm so phlegmatic. They're about acknowledging what you're good at and what you tend to in virtue, but also your inclinations are in the vices as well. We have Jemima. She's 2. She is choleric, feisty, decisive, bossy, leader. Here's Hugo, melancholic, sensitive. He can be slower to react, but holds on to things. He doesn't forget things, he's meticulous, he's organised. I'd not heard that England was inclined to a particular temperament, but clearly Isabelle has.
As a nation, you have the reputation of being really phlegmatic.
Do we?
Yes, that is literally what the French say about the English. They're so phlegmatic.
Are the French more choleric?
I don't know, I wonder. Probably.
I mean, as we are sitting here, we have that.
Yeah, that is exactly the situation. Or like, it's probably like, you know, in America, they seem to all be sanguine. There's probably an element of those, like, you know, the phlegmatics in America are probably going to have a little bit more sanguine in them because that's just the culture. And it's probably in France, it's the same thing. You probably have quite a bit of choleric, even if you're not, because that's just the way you interact with people.
So the nature and nurture.
I think so.
And what do you find with your children?
With my children, none of them is choleric, so it's, I mean, like, some of them have got dashes of it. Maybe I'm so choleric that I can't, they haven't got the purest sense of it, so I don't recognize
Not a pure pedigree.
Exactly, it's like, this is not proper choleric, you're mixing it up with, like, I don't know. Well, Jude was probably the only one who's vaguely choleric. A lot of it has to do with, like, feeling like, okay, I'm going to control what I can control. Because the thing is, with motherhood, you just, like, you've got, when you first become a mum, you get it in your face that actually you're not going to control very much. And so my instinct, because it's so hard for me to let go, is to kind of go, okay, I'm going to control all the things I can control. So I'm going to have a schedule for this, I'm going to get up at that time and do these things, and the children are going to have these rules, and I'm just going to be a complete tyrant over those rules. And yeah, that's what we're saying. It's just, I think I missed my vocation. I would have been an excellent absolute monarch, I think. What is it like for you, though?
So for me, I've had to try and be more like you and put systems in place for things to get done because I'm just so phlegmatic. I'm so chilled out that, you know, there just wasn't bedtime when I started being a mum. I was like, bedtime? But I think my mum was phlegmatic, so we didn't have, like, when people say, what's your bedtime? I used to think, what do you mean, what's my bedtime? Just, you know, when it's the time that you need to go, that you're told. So I've worked really hard to get listing and that sort of thing, but also as phlegmatic mum, I do find like things that, well, actually I've been challenged as well because lots of things I'm very chilled out about, but other things, you know, after the 15th cup of water that's spilt, I think about don't cry over spilt milk, but I cry over spilt water. Because it's just so annoying sometimes. It is. Oh, it gets on my nerves. But otherwise, I'm really chilled out and things can just be, things can get, you know, I suppose children can have a bit more freedom within the framework.
Right.
But I'm, you know, conscious that there should be frameworks.
The thing I find difficult is to sort of make time for like something that's more about relationship building, because I'm so task oriented and like do these things, get those things done, that actually I have to make myself stop and kind of actually have a conversation with your child right now. Actually, let's read a book, even though I've got 75 other items on my to-do list. Sometimes I've had to add, you know, bond with child on my to-do list to make sure it happens. So do you find it's easier for you? Does that come more naturally?
Well, I definitely get those feelings of, I've got 75 other things to do, but what I really like doing and what I appreciate is the tiny bits of time in the day that make such a difference. So when I'm, and this is something I'm really working on at the moment because I'm aware that the children think I'm quite busy and I don't want them to think I'm just busy. So as soon as they might ask me something, I'll just really make a bigger effort because it might only be 2 minutes or 30 seconds or 5 or 10 minutes, but I'll just really stop, make eye contact, hold their hands, and those little tiny things make a big difference to me in my day and me thinking that I've served them nicely that day, and also them, they feel like mummy isn't so busy all the time. Or little things, you know, in the summer holiday we'd read a book in the treehouse, so it might take a few more minutes to go out there, but it's not significant, and it would be such a significant thing for them in the quality and loveliness of their day. Yeah, so that's how I've sort of overcome that, because I think, you know, no matter what sort of mum you are, what sort of temperament you have, limit of activities and things going on in the house, or that you want to really form your children well, so you just try and, probably like all mums, just want to try and do as much as they can for their children.
It's one of the things I was, because I had to like teach myself, I wasn't like naturally household oriented, like housekeeping oriented or anything like that. So I had to teach myself to do something like that with housekeeping, like saying, if it only takes a minute, just do it now. And it's so funny because I could just as easily apply it to the children. So I quite like that, you know?
So what systems have you got in place to help your day flow with the children?
With the children, well, we've got some like specific rules. It's like, I've got 10 rules, which I mean, I repeat them constantly, and they know them because they're on the door. And so actually they love it because they kind of go like, is this one? It's like, yes, it is. As I've said many times, you know, it's like, if you're gonna go crazy, you need to go outside, or, you know, one of their favourites is work before play. That works really well, as well for like doing your chores before you do everything else. And yeah, so having these rules consistently there has helped. And for me, it's really funny because, and it's the same with the chores I do with them. It's kind of like, it's a lot of effort to put in. And sometimes I'm kind of like, okay, is it really worth all the effort? Could I not just let go a little bit? But it's part of that thing of feeling like I'm doing something to help future me in a way. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think you're forming them really nicely by teaching them order and setting them in that place, because there is freedom within that as well. Once you've done your work, and you know, about living towards, you know, growing in virtue.
Right. If you have clear limits, then that says this is not allowed, which gives you the freedom of like everything else you can do, because it's not part of the very specific rules.
And you've mentioned chores.
Yeah.
And I know, yeah, go on.
Yeah, it's that's one thing that we started doing when they were really young, and there was like a conscious effort, because obviously I can do it a lot faster myself, even now, but it's a very conscious effort. So we have a system. When they turn 3, they start having a chore, and the chore is to put the pajamas in the pajama bag. That's it. Not a complicated chore, and they can do it, but they feel like they've got a job, so that's good. Then after that, we start introducing things like wiping the table, hoovering, and doing the dishes. Haven't quite been able to let go of folding the laundry yet. It's just like, because it takes so much effort to kind of be like, let them do it wrong, and it's like, sorry, so
this is where we differ.
The folding needs to be done correctly, and I cannot like, I do let go with like I do let go with the hoovering, I do let go with the wiping of the table, and I do let go with the dishes. Yes, sometimes it's not very well done, but it's important that they feel, you know, because I'm building towards them being able to, you know, do all these things for themselves. Just not the laundry. That's where, you know, I had to draw the line somewhere and let the choleric have its moment, and that was folding clothes. Sorry, future daughter-in-law, I'm going to send, you know, my sons to you, and they won't be able to fold anything.
But they will be able to do.
But they'll do the dishes. They'll do the dishes really well, and hoover and things like that. So it's fine.
Both of your pajamas in the pajama bag.
Also, pajama bags. That one down. They've got their photos there, and they've got lists. It's not just their chores, there's also the routines that they have to do in the morning. And so they take their list out of the little list pocket and put it on under their photo. And it says like, you need to get up, and then you need to, you know, make your bed, and then you need to have your breakfast, and then you need to put things away, brush your teeth.
How do you do prayer in your family?
So when the kids wake up, they have to put their clothes on first before they come down. So their clothes, at first they were like sort of on the chair, but the kids started complaining they're all cold. So now they're on the radiator, nice and warm, ready for them in the morning. So they've got to put their clothes on. And then I have asked them to like pray when they're still in their room. It's like you put God first, so you need to first pray. And I mean, Jude says he does, and he does tend to, but obviously I'm not there to check. But what they do is once they come down for breakfast, generally I'm here because I have my little morning time on my own until they come. They do have to kneel in front of the little oratory and at least do the sign of the cross. So that's the morning. And then we do the Angelus. And then we do a decade of the Rosary in the evening, where we light some candles.
And is that all around your oratory?
The decade of the Rosary we tend to do around the table because that's after dinner. So they put everything away, then they put the candles in the middle, and we say the decade of the Rosary. So.
Why do you say the Rosary?
The Rosary came before my conversion almost. So it was a very gradual conversion, but there was a big moment. A childhood friend of mine was really really sick. Like she had endocarditis, and they tried to do an operation. It didn't work. She was basically between life and death for weeks, and it was so strange because I hadn't reverted yet. And also, growing up, I didn't have anything that was even remotely Marian, like nothing. There was the only prayer we ever prayed was, when we did pray, was always the Lord's Prayer. And yet, when I was like so desperate to do something for my friend who was just like, there's nothing I can do, she's, it's completely in God's hands whether she's gonna die or not. And then the Hail Mary came it was just, and also the Hail Mary in English, which was just like, it was not a childhood prayer at all. For it to come to my lips like that was really just out of nowhere. My theory actually is that when I was 15, as part of like this cultural Catholic thing, we were taken on a pilgrimage to Lourdes. But you know what? I went on a pilgrimage to Lourdes at 15. I didn't even go to the grotto. It's not even that I didn't go into the bath or anything. I didn't go into the grotto. I didn't care. And I was just there to have like a party with everybody else. But I think that pilgrimage to Lourdes must have had an impact, because that is exactly what I was thinking about when that Hail Mary came to my mind. This is the first prayer I had, and then after that, I tried to do the rosary, but I didn't know actually how you prayed it. I knew that you had like the 10 Hail Marys and the Our Father, but I didn't know any of the other prayers. So I just started doing that. I didn't know about the mysteries either.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, I'm just going to try and pray the rosary. But I didn't know. I had to sort of make it up. And this gradually I started meeting Catholics. I was like, no, actually you do a prayer on the cross as well. And actually you have you do have to reflect on the mysteries as well. It's oh, this is all interesting. Fine. Yeah, growing up, my parents were kind of culturally, and my entire, everyone around me was culturally Catholic, so it was kind of like you went through the sacraments because it was a family party, and you were expected to do certain things, but really there was no depth to it. People were not trying to follow any of the teachings of the church or anything like that. It was all about of course you get baptized because that's what you do, and of course you then there's even a made up sacrament in France called the profession of faith, which is just an extra party you have, which is just random. It's between.
What age? Yeah.
It's between First Holy Communion and confirmation. It's just very random. None of my religious upbringing left any mark on me. I think it was a mixture of very poor catechesis because no one was like paying any attention to it, and also being just slightly choleric, I just knew better than everybody else. So obviously, they had nothing to teach me. I already knew, so I wasn't listening. So yeah, there was a bit of there was no hope there for me to develop a faith life at that point. Yeah, my friend was, so she was between like life and death rages. Interestingly, she had some friends who were genuine Catholics themselves, like believers, and so they set up like this sort of prayer marathon that we were all taking slots and things like that to pray. And again, I was sort of like making up as I went along because it was just like I didn't know what I was doing. But anyway, so in the end, she just stabilized enough, and then they got a heart for her, and she got a heart transplant. I mean, the whole history of her health issues is complex, but she's fine now. She survived, and so then that sort of like left a mark. It's actually really interesting how God works, because my friend was very close to her faith immediately after she started recovering, and then she fell away again, and actually we fell away from each other.
And so she's from France. Were you in England at the time?
Yeah, I was in England at the time.
And had you met Simon?
Yes, I had met Simon. It was just after I met Simon.
So you were living together already?
Yes.
But I didn't mean it like that. But what I meant was, you met Simon.
Yeah.
And where did you meet?
Simon was a student at Nottingham University. He was a music student at the time, and he was in the second year. He went to university as a mature student, whereas I was teaching in a secondary school.
Yeah.
And in order to save for like a big trip around Europe, he was working as a waiter in like a pub, where I came with my friends.
So why did you come to England?
Because I always wanted to, and also because I got a job at Nottingham University teaching French to undergraduates. See, in France, being a Catholic is just what everybody is. Like being a cultural Catholic. So no one is interested. Everybody thinks they know what it's like to be a Catholic, and so you know, like, oh, of course you do your thing and who cares, you know. Whereas in England, because it's more of a minority religion, people were interested and they were like, oh, so you're Catholic? Okay, so you must be serious about it. People in England were assuming that I must mean something by being a Catholic, you know. And so I had to actually, you know, start looking into what it meant. I was kind of definitely questioning when I met Simon. And round about when my granddad died, I was also starting wearing this medallion again, which I think had some sort of impact as well, because this is the baptism medallion that all children in France are baptized with, so it's sacramental. Obviously, I wasn't thinking like that at all at the time. It was kind of like, for me, it was more of a symbol of, you know, being like, I'm being openly cultural Catholic by wearing it. But I think it had some sort of impact, because as I said, I was like gradually getting there. And then I met Simon. Simon was also kind of like wondering about these things. So we ended up going to the Grand Tour of Europe together. The Grand Tour that Simon was saying being for by being a waiter. And whilst we were on our Grand Tour of Europe, that's when my friend fell ill.
So was Simon Catholic?
I think his grandparents are Methodists, but his parents were very much like, no interest in religion whatsoever. But he was interested. And he was, I know he looked into it at university, mostly like Protestant groups.
Were you an instrument to each other in the conversion?
Definitely, because Simon was asking questions. And then I was like, oh, I thought I knew. Because, you know, you remember, like, it's just like, I knew better than everybody else. And I was like, oh, I don't actually know the answer to that question. I better actually look it up. And then, you know, I started, you know, reading a bit more about it. I've got a great aunt who's nun as well. I started asking her questions. But then, as I started reading, I stumbled upon all these, like, American bloggers.
We've had mixed spice 2 times.
Not only were these women, you know, just like serious about their faith, but they also were showing how the lifestyle itself could be attractive. How you could be happy being like this completely crazy countercultural person who was just doing everything, you know, against all the norms of the culture. Now that's something that's naturally appealing to me. It's just like, ooh. I could be contrary. This is great. I like this plan. But I'm pretty sure I didn't just convert to just be contrary, I hope.
Being a social rebel.
Yeah, just being a rebel. Although, you know, I read somewhere about, like Welcome to the Rebellion. It's the only one that there is. And I was like, I think it's pretty true. It's about the only one there is against the secular world at the moment. Because obviously the blogs were also referring to, like, various authors. So I stumbled upon Chesterton and C.S. Lewis. I was also doing a degree in philosophy and I hated it. But then when I looked at philosophy through the angle of theology, I loved it. And I was just like, couldn't get enough of it. So that's what sort of got me deeper and deeper into my faith. But then, like, going from, like, what type of Catholic, that was more to do with, like, the people we met. Yeah, so, like, some things were introduced to us through our friends, so like all the charismatic side, for example. But also, I was actually because I'm a historian, I always loved all the Latin things. That was actually something that right from the beginning I really loved. And another thing is, like, because my conversion had so much to do with those American bloggers, there were some weird bits of the faith I was really clear about. So, for example, you know, the teaching on contraception, I was aware that that was a thing and we had to do it. And, well, you can imagine, we were living together beforehand and we went from Simon being baptized 4 months before we got married to, like, okay, now we need to actually follow the rules. And it was interesting. And we did it. Sorry, I'm actually joking. Simon was actually fully on board with everything. But it was because it was part of, we were doing it at the same time. Even though, like, for example, he did RCIA and I went there along with him. Everything I was reading, I was like, Simon, did you know there was that thing? And so Simon was like very much on the same page as me on that. But yeah, there were still loads of like little aspects of like devotions and things like that we just didn't know, and we had to discover gradually as we met more Catholics, which actually was really hard. There weren't very many. It was quite isolated at first. But, you know, gradually met some more, and we went back to the Latin Mass, again, through friends. Another friend was like, oh, you should come along with us. We go to the Latin Mass, we do that thing. And so that's how I discovered that side of things. Like, both our sort of personalities really helped us along there to sort of get us to the right place. But as I said, like, sort of like trying to reinvent the wheel constantly and trying to build a community from scratch as well, because there wasn't one where we were at all. That was hard and they were slow, but
do you feel like that was maybe like a desert time?
Mommy.
in a way, definitely. Although, I think because I was so enthusiastic about discovering my faith, up until, you know, we started finally meeting some of the Catholics, it was all right. The bit that was much harder on my faith was actually when we got to the point where we had 3 children, under 3. Simon was working as a junior doctor, as I said, like 75 million hours a week. And we had no support network whatsoever. That was really hard, sort of like adjusting to that. That was my desert time in the faith, where I had to sort of like really fall on my knees and just like admit to, you know, not being able to do everything on my own, which is just very contrary to how I feel about life.
I wipe the table. Everyone does the washing. I do the.
So if that was your desert time, you know, you described the desert time, how would you describe where you are now? With lots of children. What's it like?
Well, it's completely different right now because we moved. In order to get that community, basically we gave up on building it ourselves and like trying to do it from scratch and trusting in our own strength. And instead, we had a big leap of faith to sort of come down here and join the community that was trying to be built here by other people and join that and sort of help with that. And that's been amazing because I'm also closer to Simon's family here. So all of a sudden we have a support network. All of a sudden we have, you know, other people that can do all the liturgical year things that we love doing together. Like last year when we were doing Our Lady of Loreto gingerbread houses, which was amazing. So all of these things, all of a sudden, you know, all these things that I dreamt about when I was reading all these Catholic bloggers, and I was just like, oh wow, this life can actually be amazing. All this thing can actually happen here, and I think it's really interesting because like when you start at, I mean, a lot of England is very desert-like for Catholics, I think. I think a lot of it is a few families trying to build community on not very much and with not a lot of support. So having what we have here is just amazing. Here we've got the parish, we've got the traditional Latin Mass that has formed this beautiful parish, and we've got our hybrid academy, which also adds another layer to the community where we can, you know, homeschool and also have the school community, and also people are starting to move closer as well, which means that I'm hoping that as time goes on we'll all get to just like be within reach of everyone really easily, and we can have this sort of casual interaction with Catholics. You know, what we were talking about is like this possibility of the children to not just think that we're the only ones who say the Angelus, we're the only ones who homeschool, because it's everywhere, and actually every single other family around us does the same thing, and it's just normal.
Du Fils et du Saint-Esprit.
Merci.
Merci Seigneur pour ce bon repas. Béni ce pain sont préparés, donne-lui pain, ainsi soit-il. Amen.
And I think for me, in losing my faith as a teenager, that was, I'd probably say that was one of the biggest reasons that I did lose my faith, because we didn't have the community. I see it in my children now. They're like confident to talk about, you know, their catechism and what they know and asking questions, and it's a really normal part of life.
As they grow up and they get closer to teenage years, that's when they need to have input from, you know, the wider community. And if we want to save our teenagers from what we had to go through before we got back to our faith, I think you do need that community really, really badly.
Isabelle, it's been lovely. Really lovely day. And I'm going to be re-watching this and learning all the things of order that you put in your day and trying to make myself put them in my phlegmatic little lifestyle at home. So thank you, and thank you for being generous with your time and all your thoughts and your family. It's been so enjoyable.
Thank you for going to see us. It was really lovely.